For briefing this morning, we have our special guest from the Electricity Sector Enterprise Team, ESET. They recently updated Cabinet on some of the developments pertinent thereto, and we are pleased to have them joining us this morning. Let me just introduce the members of the ESET board who are here with us. From my immediate left, Mr. Chris Zaka. Next to him is the chairman of ESET, Dr. the Honorable Vin Lawrence. Next to Dr. Lawrence is our Minister of Information. She will update us on some of the decisions coming out of Cabinet. And next to Minister is Professor Wint and Mr. Matalon, all members of the ESET board. At this point, I'm going to turn things over to Minister Faulkner to update us on some of the decisions coming out of Cabinet. Then the Honorable Vin Lawrence will speak on the update, and we will then open the briefing for your questions. Minister.
Thank you, Lincoln. Good morning, everyone. Good morning to our viewers on the PBCJ and those who are joining us on the World Wide Web. Cabinet has approved the increase in the loan ceiling of the National Housing Trust from $4.5 million to $5.5 million, and the lowering by 1% of the interest rate applicable for all categories of new borrowers. With the increased cost of new housing solutions and a 41% increase in housing prices over the 5-year period between 2010 and 2015, the average NHT contributor requires more money to pursue their home ownership dream. In addition to improving affordability, the new measures will also help to stimulate construction startups and generate employment in the important construction industry. The additional $1 million in loan ceiling represents a 22% increase in the financing available to NHT borrowers and will narrow the affordability gap for NHT contributors. The increased NHT loan ceiling is for new construction type loans or the purchase of units in new developments. And the NHT will provide further details on this issue to the media. Cabinet has approved proposed amendments and given instructions to the Chief Parliamentary Council for the drafting of amendments to the Public Debt Management Act 2012 and its regulations. Approval for the Public Debt Management Act provide a framework for the better management of the nation's public debt. It is a coherent and comprehensive legislative framework and sets clear objectives for the management of the country's public debt, with established accountability, reporting requirements, and other procedures. A World Bank review in 2014 made institutional capacity building recommendations for the more efficient operation of the Act. The proposed amendments will make the PBMA consistent with international and local standards and conform to other pieces of legislation. The proposed amendments pertain primarily to clarifications and greater details. They include requirements and operations to be put in place in the event of the assumption of debt of public bodies and the purposes for which loans may be raised, among other things. The PDMA amendments form part of the Public Financial Management Reform Program. Cabinet has approved a contract to Cargotech Limited for the supply and commission into service of 5 Brahma crane spreaders for the Kingston Container Terminal. The value of the contract is $587,000 US. Crane spreaders are attached to containers and are used in the process of loading and unloading vessels. The twin lift spreaders enable the crane to lift up to 2 containers at the same time, thus ensuring higher efficiency and productivity. The last major purchase of these spreaders was in 2000, and these have now passed their useful cycle. And approval has also been given by the Cabinet for TMEIC Corporation to supply and commission 8 ship-to-shore crane control systems for the Kingston Container Terminal. This is in order to ensure efficient handling of the increasing volume of containers passing through the terminal. It is also necessary for greater authority of the units in the present ship-to-shore crane system has been in operation for between the units in the present ship-to-shore crane system have been in operation for between 12 and 14 years, and many of the components are obsolete, with parts and software no longer available. And users of the Mountainside to Watchwell Parish Council Road in St. Elizabeth are to benefit from a $99 million road improvement rehabilitation program, and that will be carried out by DR Foot Construction Company Limited. Cabinet has approved a contract for the 6-kilometer-long road repairs project. The Mountainside to Watchwell Parish Council roadway is in urgent need of repair and poses a threat to both motorists and pedestrians. And the work will include site clearance, drainage work, construction of curb and a channel, preparation and application of asphaltic concrete. And that contract is for 6 months, with work expected to commence this month. The contract is being financed by the Minister of Tourism and Entertainment through the Tourism Enhancement Fund. Cabinet received a briefing from the ESET team on a number of issues, including an update on the installation of facilities to handle LNG. This game-changing process has been led by the Electricity Enterprise Team, ESET. You may recall that Jamaica is the first non-NAFTA country to receive approval from the U.S. for importation of LNG from that country. You may also recall the historic visit of President Barack Obama and the commitment he gave regarding energy cooperation. The Most Honorable Prime Minister visited Washington, D.C. in January this year to attend the Energy Summit with Vice President Joe Biden. The Cabinet's approval for this project is on the firm basis that the all-in price cost must be no more than US 12.89 cents. That was the benchmark price established by the Minister of Energy last year. The US government and our Ministry of Energy had agreed that Jamaica should become an LNG supply hub for the Caribbean. That was a major objective of the letter of intent, the letter of cooperation signed by the U.S. Energy Secretary, Dr. Moniz, and our Minister of Energy, the Honorable Philip Paulwell. The approval by the Cabinet of New Fortress Energy to supply LNG to Jamaica was also based on the establishment of a gas hub here. And I now turn to the chairman of ESET, Dr. the Honorable Vincent Lawrence, who will give you details. Doc?
Thank you, Madam Minister. ESET proposes to give you an update fairly similar to the update that we gave to Cabinet on Monday, which covers the project's status, and firstly the status of work to develop liquefied natural gas, that's LNG, supply, to facilitate the diversification of Jamaica's power plants' fuel supply, which Minister Faulkner just explained, the work that has been done country to country between Jamaica and the USA. Secondly, we will mention as a result the relationship with regards to the progress on the new Old Harbour 190 megawatt gas-fired combined cycle power plant. And thirdly, we will speak about the status of the progress on the conversion of the 120 megawatt Bogue combined cycle gas turbine power plant to enable it to operate on dual fuel, that is the existing or the current automotive diesel oil and or natural gas, and obviously our intent is to operate it on natural gas. You recall that in furtherance of the Cabinet approvals, we had previously reported that we had advised JPS to proceed with the development of the Old Harbour 190 megawatt gas-fired baseload generating capacity to supply power to the grid, and this was aimed at replacing the 292 megawatt obsolete facilities that exist in Old Harbour currently, which are both inefficient and unreliable, and also very high cost production. JPS, as a result of that instruction, subsequently issued requests for proposals, RFPs, for both the engineering, procurement, and construction of the plant. They were looking contractors, and also for the supply of natural gas for the power plant. We at ESET requested the JPS that in preparing their RFP, they should allow for the future development of a national LNG gas supply to facilitate the country's economic development. The RFP was thus issued for the development of LNG supply, storage, and regasification facilities. So it was not just a matter of getting gas, it had involved building a terminal in Jamaica, which would facilitate some of the things that Minister Faulkner just spoke to you about. A joint JPS-ESET team was therefore formed to conduct an assessment of the proposals that the JPS received and to facilitate negotiation of the commercial conditions. Technical assistance was provided to the JPS by the global energy advisory firm, the Galway Group, and by the consulting engineering firm, Hatch Mott MacDonald. 6 entities submitted 16 variations of supply proposals. And we were quite delighted at this because we've gone through 15, 20 years of attempting to get LNG to Jamaica without much success. And on this RFP, we had 6 entities, 6 credible entities, submitting 16 variations of supply proposals. After initial evaluation, 3 proposals from 3 different entities were selected for further assessment. Review meetings were held with the 3 shortlisted entities, and thereafter a preferred bidder and a second-ranked bidder were identified. The selection criteria included the most competitive price to satisfy the JPS initial volume requirement, competitiveness of benchmark prices at increased volumes because we see an expanding market, both for Jamaica and in the Caribbean. So we wanted to look at competitiveness of benchmark prices at increased volumes, and the independent consultants, Galway Group, established benchmark prices for us in this evaluation process. We also looked at the security of supply, the capability of delivering the project, the ability to expand the terminal, because the expansion is important, because they would start with supplying JPS at a small volume, and we wanted the ability for the plant to be expanded. The ability to meet the power plant schedule, because there's a commitment given by the government through ESET to have the power on stream the end of 2017 and during 2018. So we had to be sure that the terminal facilities would facilitate those plants. And we wanted to see commitment and capability to achieve timely financial close. As in all these issues, they have to be financed, and you've got to be sure that they can be financed. Otherwise, you're really just fishing in the issue. So that is one of the things that form an important part of the evaluation. New Fortress Energy emerged as the highest ranked bidder, as you just heard from Minister Faulkner, and was selected by the JPS as the recommended developer of the LNG project. They were the most competitive for the JPS requirements, and they were selected by JPS. New Fortress was not only the lowest evaluated price for the volumes required by JPS, it clearly demonstrated its commitment and capability to realize financial close and gas supply as scheduled by the detailed engineering studies it had undertaken. Their proposals were based significantly on detailed engineering studies. Many of the other proposals were based upon desk studies. There was no doubt that they had gone into detail and had some commitment to getting the work done. Based with this JPS recommendation, ESET thereafter conducted its own assessment of the JPS recommendation and endorsed the selection of New Fortress to build, own, and operate the LNG terminal and grow the market for natural gas in Jamaica. ESET had subsequent discussions after this process, after its own evaluation with New Fortress, and this has led to an agreement for the government of Jamaica and New Fortress to enter into a memorandum of understanding to guide the development of the natural gas market locally and confirm the intent to develop Jamaica as a hub for the regional distribution of small-scale gas supply. And Minister Faulkner referred to this, and this is an extremely important aspect as far as Jamaica's welfare is concerned. The issue of Jamaica becoming a hub for regional distribution. Cabinet, at this meeting on Monday, November 9th, that's Monday gone, endorsed the selection of New Fortress Energy for the supply of LNG and the installation of facilities to receive, store, and regasify the fuel for use at the new Old Harbour 190 megawatt gas-fired power plant. And it also approved in principle the development of a local gas market, GOJ, that's Government of Jamaica, Fortress MOU. ESET yesterday, Tuesday, wrote to the JPS authorizing their negotiation of an Old Harbour gas supply agreement with Fortress. Fortress was also advised of the decision, and I just want to quote to you a communication we received from New Fortress today, which they have released. And it says, New Fortress Energy is honored to play an integral role during this historic year in the Jamaican energy sector. This announcement is a culmination of a decade of hard work by countless numbers of people. The integration of natural gas power generation is a model for countries around the world to seize control of their energy and environmental future. It will lead to stable, lower long-term power prices and is a bridge to incorporating additional renewable power in the future. The work Jamaica has done this year had created an immediate future where Jamaica's energy sector will be unaffected by the daily price movements in the oil markets. We view Jamaica as our partner in creating an energy hub for the Caribbean, facilitating access to natural gas for many other islands. Natural gas power plants can serve as springboards to help industrial users improve their businesses and customers integrate cleaner fuels into their daily lives. Our team has made over 100 visits to Jamaica this year, and we are always encouraged by the warmth and hospitality of the Jamaican people. Earlier this year, we signed an agreement to supply fuel to the converted Bogue power plant, and will commence deliveries in April 2016. This terminal is a continuation of our goal of having a number of businesses in Jamaica and being part of the Jamaican fabric for years to come. I'd just like to point out that in the Bogue power plant situation, there is already significant interest being shown in the Montego Bay community for the cryogenic aspects as it relates to LNG supply. And there are discussions being held, for example, refrigeration and other things for the use of things. The cryogenic really means to liquefy the gas to get it here. It has to be done at very low temperature, and then you warm it up to regasify it. And the cold that is given off is very useful for refrigeration purposes. And so people are involved in the meat and other industries that require a lot of refrigeration, and there has been a lot of interest shown by people who are involved in storage and things like that already in Montego Bay. And when we have the plant on the South Coast, there's distinct advantages and links that will facilitate a lot of the planned hope for logistics and other activities to take place. And it is beginning to realize itself in Montego Bay already. Huh? I would indicate, yes. This email was sent to us it came after 10 o'clock this morning from Fortress. To their delight, having been learned that they've been awarded the contract. With regards to the 190 megawatt power plant, the contractors, the JPS, at the same time that they issued the RFP for the gas, conducted its own review of bids to supply power plant equipment for the 190 megawatt plant. And in this case, they had technical assistance from AMEC Foster Wheeler. And JPS has selected the Spanish firm Abengoa, whose power plant package consists of a General Electric GE combined cycle frame 6B gas turbine. Negotiations are presently underway to finalize a performance contract between JPS and Abengoa. I'd like to also point out that both major shareholders of the Jamaica Public Service Company, that's Marubeni and Korea East-West Power Company, have informed ESET of their commitment to each inject up to 50% of the approximately US 90 million in equity that is required to develop the 190 megawatt power plant, that they expect to inject by financial close of the project, which is due on December 31st, 2015. They intend to raise debt funding of approximately US $210 million for the project. And they are very good prospects. They have, I think we indicated at our last press conference that they had been bombarded with the prospects of funding and financing by a number of financial institutions, both local and international. And there are in advanced negotiations and discussions with some of these institutions, all to facilitate financial closing by December 31st, 2015. A quick recap on the Bogue plant retrofitting. Many of you, I think, took part in last month in October in the launch of the project that both JPS and Fortress hosted in Montego Bay at the Bogue plant. But we want to point out that the work there is progressing. New Fortress, as the gas supplier for this facility also, has started looking at the construction of the regasification facilities at Montego Freeport and the pipeline from Montego Freeport to Bogue. That construction is due to commence shortly. They have already negotiated and settled the right-of-way for the pipeline with the various persons. It's about a 2-mile pipeline from the port to the Bogue plant, and that is on stream. The major gas turbine spares and equipment have been delivered by General Electric to the site, and this was done in September. And it is still projected that the commercial operation date for this project will be in April 2016. So that's certainly on track. The next steps for ESET in order to ensure development of reliable electricity supply at low electricity costs for the consumer on a sustainable basis, we'll be continuing to finalize the detailed project and execution plans with the various entities to provide the most cost-effective power tariff to the grid. We'll be monitoring project execution plans and schedules for these proposed power projects to ensure that they are delivered on time. And we will be participating and have been participating in the review that the government is undertaking of the JPS electricity license to ensure best practices. That more or less is up to date, is the update provided to the government on Monday as it relates to ESET's work on various projects. For brief information, which was not provided to the Cabinet, but which we will share with you simply is that, as you're aware, there were other projects to be undertaken. And we indicated the last time our reservations about the Alpart project in that they had not completed their agreements. And so we had put the issue of advancing the Alpart projects on hold. With regards to the Jamaica project, we had indicated that they were looking at a coal-fired plant, 50 megawatts to the grid, with the high interest in providing gas to Jamaica. And now with the selection of a gas bidder, Jamalco has asked to assess the issue of whether they should build a coal plant or go to gas. And so they are being allowed another 2 to 3 weeks to have discussions with the possible gas supplier and for a final decision to be taken. This period will not affect the scheduling that we have proposed for what should happen at Jamalco. As a matter of fact, if they switch to gas, we would have a 2-year rather than a 3-year construction period, and the capital costs would be significantly less on that basis. And thirdly, Cabinet approved earlier one other cogeneration facility, which is essentially the Pan-Caribbean Sugar Company, who have built biomass plants, usually bagasse, using the bagasse from the cane to produce power for their own use, and have agreed for them to sell 5 megawatts of power to the JPS under this arrangement, and they are now at the stage of negotiating a power purchase agreement with the Jamaica Public Service Company. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lawrence. With all that exciting news, we now open the floor for your questions. Mr. Luton. Well, we know you have, you project well, but you should use it.
All right, good morning. Minister, may I ask my questions of you first before I get to Dr.
Sure.
Lawrence? I get enough time? Thanks. With the permission of my colleagues also. The increase in the loan ceiling from $4.5 to $5 million.
Right.
$5.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us also how it impacts the other income bands? Because that's at the maximum, that's at the top in terms of qualification. What about those people at the lower bands? Do you have that to share with us?
Well, the people at the lowest band, those who were paying 1%, they will not pay any interest now on their loans.
Minister, can you share with us how this rearrangement, well, coming at a weird time, I may think, though, but can you tell us how this will impact the viability of the NHT? That has always been an issue.
Well, I would imagine that the NHT board and their actuaries would have done their work, and it won't affect the viability of the NHT. In terms of those who will pay 0%, it's not a big number. I think it's going to cost about $21 million per annum.
And in terms of, and when the board would have presented...
But remember, the loan ceiling, well, the interest rate is a different thing, but the loan ceiling is to facilitate, because we've had these increases in the cost of building and the cost of acquiring homes. It's not viable for persons who want to access loans from the NHT, so hence the reason to increase by $1 million.
I won't keep you long, so...
But remember, I said earlier that the NHT is going to do a detailed briefing, and they will be able to give you all the numbers, which I don't have.
But can you, as minister, tell us that this is not because an early election is in the air, that the government is not just plucking this one out as one of the goodies being distributed? Well,
the board of the NHT makes its decisions, and the decisions came to Cabinet for approval, and that we did.
So this is not an election ploy?
It's not an election ploy. This is to benefit the people of Jamaica, to benefit contributors to the National Housing Trust.
I'm hearing you, Minister.
You
Dr.
don't.
Lawrence.
You're cynical, young Luton. This
I-
is to benefit the people.
I normally take everything with a grain of salt. In this season, I take everything with a spoon of salt. I drink a lot of water thereafter. But
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Dr. Lawrence, just for clarity, can you? It is in relation to New Fortress. It is the LNG terminal, which is separate from the agreement with the JPS. Is that the case?
No. The agreement, yes. The agreement with JPS is for them to build a terminal and supply the JPS with 200,000 metric tons of gasoline per annum for
LNG.
of LNG for the power plant, and it involves building a terminal which they will own themselves. The contract that they are saying is a supply contract to JPS, power at the boundary fence of JPS. But the JPS had to be satisfied of the reliability and the security of supply. So there are issues related to storage, issues related to processing, and that's one of the reasons why the JPS itself was very strong on the storage and terminaling facilities to ensure the reliability. Now, we also had another interest in the terminal and to being located because we believe it's in Jamaica's interest. We've been trying for 20 years to bring natural gas to deal with certain things in Jamaica. And so we believe it's also in our interest to have a facility that can expand and grow, a terminal facility. And so that's how, together, we've piggybacked more or less on the contract that we agreed that JPS should negotiate for gas supply to ensure that Jamaica's future economic development will be secure as far as gas is concerned.
So essentially, what has happened is that that contract has taken care of the supply side of the LNG, and the contract with the Spanish entity has taken care of the building of the
190 megawatt power plant.
So essentially, those things coming together means that everything is on track for the delivery of that.
100%. Yes, that's the point I was making. The plant is due to be finished by the fourth quarter of 2017, and the power plant is due to be ready at the beginning of 2018.
My last question for now on this. The LNG terminal, what would be the size of that? Is it done in that way?
Yes.
Just try to get a picture of what will remain when the JPS share comes out. Because my understanding of
currently
it is that
the commitment, I can't answer that specifically because it depends a lot on what happens with the gas market. But there has been significant interest that has been seen by the industrial sector, and we know that there are interests that will develop in the transportation sector, and we're hoping that eventually there will be interest in the domestic sector for gas. What I can tell you is that for the last 20 years, Jamaica has been looking to get gas here, and I've been looking at getting about 1 million tons, at least, per year. Because if the bauxite companies, for example, Jamaica goes to take gas, what JPS currently would take of about 200,000 would probably more than double and probably end up with 400 to 500,000 required. Similarly, if there are other facilities, and we think there are prospects for other facilities to use, if there's transportation which converts it to use in LNG, it will grow. So the answer to your question is they're expected to erect at this stage a terminal that supplies at least the 200,000 metric tons that's required by JPS. It may be, and it should be expandable. How quickly they expand it, whether immediately or over the next few years, will depend on the offtake that develops. What's that? The price of what? They'll spend over $200 million on the terminal. No. Those prices for negotiation of the gas, etc., are between JPSCO and its
but the final electricity price is still less than 13 cents.
The final electricity price to the grid will be less than 13 cents.
Rohan?
Dr. Lawrence, Ron Powell, Radio Jamaica. Just want to get an indication from your team, the issue of the environmental impact. That was concluded, and were there any concerns, and you have managed to persuade any of the environmentalists about
Actually,
it?
the environmentalists, everything has been done in accordance with the specifications and the approvals of NEPA. Significant environmental work has been done and is being done. But I'll make personally only one or two comments. Simply, natural gas is a clean fuel and will substantially eliminate a lot of the pollution that currently takes place from the fuel that we are currently burning. So we are way ahead of the game as far as the environmental aspects are concerned. There are that. I had indicated earlier at the earlier press conference that in the case of Jamaica, with today's technology, and there's some people call it clean coal, others say there's never anything called clean coal. But with certainly the specifications, the plant at Jamaica, a new coal plant, is going to be also much more environmentally friendly than currently the fuel that's being burned there. And that would be even further improved substantially if they end up going to gas. So it is one of those things that we just need to make sure that all the right things that NEPA would want to be done and all the protection and the various things, environmental protection issues, are taken, which are standard in the approval of most projects.
You have a follow-up, Ron? All right. Do we have any? Javon? No. Dara? Javon?
Can I just, Mr. Zaka is reminding me here something that a lot of people have been debating the Portland Bight area and what happens in a plant in the Portland Bight or other plant. One of the things here is that one of the major options under the Fortress agreement here is to put the terminal at Rocky Point as distinct from in the Portland Bight area, at Old Harbor Bay. Okay, which is another significant advantage for what we're hoping to do.
Thank you.
I just wanted to know, Doc, in terms of the implication for the Alpart decision and also the Jamaica decision on the timelines.
There is no implication on the timelines from the Jamaica decision. There's also not an implication on the Alpart decision because what it will do, and I think I explained that last meeting, but I'll explain it again for you. The conversion of the Bogue plant, a 120 megawatt plant, which comes into effect immediately early next year, the use of that plant would diminish probably to about a 40% usage with the Alpart facility in. With the Alpart facility not in, we'll probably run Bogue at about 90%. So we have a certain level of security in what we're doing, and that's why we weren't really too perturbed. And that's why when they were not stepping up to the plate to meet our schedules and all the various things that are required, we looked at the options for the country because we're committed to delivering low-cost energy, reliable energy to the Jamaican population in 2018.
The JPS they have expressed some concerns about the impact of renewables on their system in relation to the amount that is coming in and also the flexibility of their plans to deal with it. Do you have a response to?
The response is, and I think Fortress referred to it in the communication they sent this morning. The response really is that the diversification and the use of gas facilitates significantly the integration of renewables into the system because it makes it much, much easier for you to use Jamaican power lines to ramp up and ramp down because of the unreliability of some of the renewables. If a cloud cover passes and you don't have the solar sun, what happens? And if the breeze stops blowing and you don't have the wind farm, what happens? You can ramp up these gas facilities, the turbines, much more easily. So it makes the integration into the system much better and more functional. So it really works for us in a good way.
Javon? You had a question, or you?
I do have a question,
Okay.
but it's not directly related to this issue.
Okay. All right, so
All right. I want to talk more. The president of the GMA, that's Metro Siaga, he said he's not satisfied with the Prime Minister's decision to reassign Dr. Ferguson. He wants more people to be held accountable, and he specifically mentioned the PS, the CMO, and the regional heads. So I'm asking for a direct response to you if the government intends to sort of move along a line where they hold more people accountable.
Well, you heard the new Minister of Health last night, and he has to go in. He has to do his own assessments, and we have to look at where the breakdowns happened. And based on that, we can't just fire people without knowing whether or not someone did something wrong. There is a process, and I'm sure the minister will do his assessments and take his decisions.
So in the decision to reassign Dr. Ferguson, I am thinking perhaps a study was done to see where the breakdown took place and who should be held accountable.
Well, I think the Prime Minister was very clear in her statement. And in her statement, she said that, you know, we have to move forward, avoid the distractions. What we really have to focus on now is the economic reform of the country and ensure that we do everything that is in the interest of building our economy. And the distractions were affecting that process.
So Dr. Ferguson's reassignment was just to get rid of a distraction and not based on any...
Well, we listened to the people and we listened to the concerns of the people. And the general view from the population, they had some discomfort, and we answered their questions, and we answered them. So Minister Ferguson is in a new portfolio, and he is raring to go. He's going to do his work. And I think we should allow the two ministers to settle down.
Minister Daly said something on the TVJ News.
Mm-hmm.
He said he doesn't believe that he should take account for regional chairman messing up in terms of bacteria or anything in hospitals. Is that the collective view of the government?
Well, I believe that all of us have jobs to do, and all of us should be held accountable, whether we're a clerk, whether we are a CEO in the process, if we're a nurse or a doctor. Every single one of us they have jobs to do, and they should do their jobs, and they should be accountable to the people that they serve.
My final question on this. What's your position in terms of do you feel that the chairman...
You know, I don't have personal positions.
I understand, but I'm trying to get a view from the
Javon,
government.
I do not have personal positions when I sit at this table. I speak on behalf of the Cabinet of Jamaica.
Is it the collective position of the Cabinet that the regional head should be held accountable?
It's the view of the Cabinet that every single Jamaican every single person who works in the public sector should be responsible. Whether you're in a hospital, whether you're a policeman, whether you're a member of the army, whether you work in the parliament, whether you work at OPM, you must be accountable for the job that you are to do, and you must be accountable to the people, to the taxpayers of this country.
But the buck must stop with somebody. That response is basically... it's very broad. It doesn't have any specifics.
I'm not sure if I understand your last question.
What I'm trying to say is that the response that you gave,
yes,
it doesn't
but
say
I'm telling you
anybody's
what the
in authority.
general position of the Cabinet is, that the people must be accountable. So the leaders within the different areas of government must assess, and if there are persons within their organizations who are not accountable, they must deal with them. Do we have any other? Rohan, we take two more questions.
Anybody? Minister, very important juncture for the governing People's National Party.
Very important one?
Very important juncture for the governing party, and by extension, members
We don't
of...
speak about the party here. We speak about the government here.
I know, that's why I said the governing.
Limit your conversations to government.
Governing is one and the same. Members of the Cabinet.
No, the party and the government is not the same. We serve all the people of Jamaica.
Totally agree with you, and all the people of Jamaica know, well, maybe not all, let me not speak for all, but quite a large sector, the business sector, other sectors of society are clamoring for some specifics, let me use that term, as it relates to an end-of-year announcement, or near to an end-of-year announcement as it relates to plans going into an election. Can you tell us?
You have completely lost me there.
No, I'm coming to the question now. Will we be having, are there any plans for an election this year?
I think you will have to speak to the Prime Minister of Jamaica, who is the only person with that authority to call an election or not to call an election. I can't answer you that.
No indication, I mean, any...
Oh, I just answered you. I can't answer you.
Will there be a meeting this weekend?
What meeting? A meeting of the cabinet?
A meeting of the governing party?
I don't know. If you want to know if there's going to be a meeting of the governing party, there is a communications team for the governing party. I don't speak on behalf of the governing party at this table. We have clear rules in this room. It's the government press room.
Let me ask a follow-up on that. Is this your last press briefing for the...
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know. You think? Seems as if you know. Am I going to be? It seems as if I'm going to come and work for you now. Thank you, guys. Have a. Boy, you have very interesting questions.
Is it your last press briefing, Minister?
It came into effect on November 1. November 1. And the NHT is going to, I've asked them to give a full briefing to the media on the implications. So you should be hearing from them in short order in terms of the details, the financial details. So they will give you that. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank our viewers on the PBCJ and those on the World Wide Web. And of course, we want to thank Mr. Zaka, Dr. Lawrence, Mr. Prof. Wins, and Mr. Matalan, and all the other members of ESET and members of the media who are here today. Thank you, and have a great day. And see you next week. You know, it is so funny. If we